Okay. So last time I rolled out a slab and I kept it, right? Let's see how well I did. So now this slab should be just about right to work on. It's been several days that it's been covered up, and it's gonna have a few little cracks and marks on it, but all that can be fixed. Actually, put a nice little texture on there that you can't see. But I'm gonna go ahead and take the rib or my card here and just tighten this back up a little bit. Especially where it cracked, and it cracked because I tried to roll it. This clay was a little drier, and I tried to roll it a little tight when I first started it, and that's why it cracked there. But it's okay. Let's get this side. And I'm not too worried about a few marks on here because I'll probably do some stuff to the slab anyway. All right, I'm gonna flip it over. Yep, no cracks over here. That's good. Okay, so now I'm going to take my template that I made, right? And I'm going to start cutting out some pieces. So I'm probably not going to get all the pieces I need out of this because it is a small slab. But if I go as close as I can, I will not waste a lot of clay. So I want to get the most out of this that I can. So I'm going to use the pen tool, right? You can use whatever it is you're drawing on clay with, a paper clip or whatever. Now this template works fine just being plain paper, but it would be better if it were cardboard, like a real thin piece of cardboard. Because the paper soaks up water, and after a while it's not very good. So I can put that right next to it. If I get it right on my line, it should be good. It's a little off up here, but that's fine. My template's not very straight either. So I'm not trying to cut it while the template's on there. I'm just drawing. Now I'll take my knife, do some cutting. one. Set that over here. There's two. There's three. So because my pot is going to be taller than it is wide, I'm using the shorter side of my rectangles here. My base isn't going to be very big. So I'm going to use this piece, which should give me enough base to work with. Set that aside too. Yeah, the clay stayed really nice and wet. So all the scrap here, I can just ball it up and then keep it in a separate little bag. So I'm not putting it in with any good clay. Now I do have another slab because I don't have enough for my box. That's what I just did. This one is I just made today, so it's going to be a little softer. So softer slabs, they move more when you're trying to put them together. So it's, I may have to move them around a little bit to get it to work. But so I've got three. I need one more for the side, so that'd be four sides, and then I've got the bottom, and I'll end up needing one for the top also. I'm gonna take my template here. Notice that I'm not sticking it right in the middle and cutting it out, so you get a lot more out of your slab if you position the template in smarter places. And like I said, most of these are going to get trimmed anyway to fit. So this is just getting kind of a rough estimate. So actually I'm going to cut this, and that should be enough. Yeah, that'll be enough. The other part. This clay is a lot softer. I'm going to let it sit there for a while, uncovered. Cover this back up. Get air out of the bag. Okay, so now I'm ready to start. So if this is going to be my base, right? I'm going to need one wall first, and I'm going to square this up a little bit. Because I know I won't need all of it. And of course, using a ruler would be best. I'm just going to eyeball it. All right, so this is gonna work. I'm gonna go with this and this, right? This is my base, this is my wall, but I'm gonna turn it on its side to put it together, because right now there's nothing holding the taller wall up. So if I put it on its side, it'll stay more stable while I work on that joint. So I need my fork. So first, I'm going to score and slip. That didn't work. So I've got to score and slip the bottom of this one and this part right here, right? So just take my fork, score it. There's going to be more steps with this to make pots with corners. The corners are working against each other most of the time. So when you're scoring and slipping, it's great and it works, but it's also not the only thing that you have to do. Most of the time it's fine, but when I'm doing pots like this, like pots that have corners and walls like this, straight things, I want them to really be together. So I'm going to add 2 more steps to attaching. So first, score and slip, right? Same as always. And now I'm going to push this together. Just enough pressure to start seeing the slip kind of scoot out. So if I'm doing it like this, you know, I can slide it a little bit back and forth to really get it to stay, and then I'll move it back again. But I'm gonna go ahead and smooth that out while it's here. And then turn it on its side. Just run my finger on the inside corner a little bit. Okay, so if this piece is sitting on top of this piece, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take some clay from the base and pull it into the wall. So I call this stitches. So stitches are the next thing that you're going to do. Find something to do the stitches with. I want something, I can use the fork, because it's not too thin, right? It's a little thicker than something else. Try to get it where everything's captured here. All right, so I'm just gonna pull. And it looks bad now, right? It's because it's all kind of scratched up. But I'm gonna take my card now, the rib, right? And it's nice and straight and flat, so. And this is stiff enough that it doesn't bend. Like, I can bend it, but for this, I don't want it to bend. I want it to be straight. I'm just gonna get rid of the stitches. Clean up that corner a little bit. All right, so that helps. That's step 2. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is do a weld on the inside. So I'm gonna stand this up. I'm just gonna hold it right here well, I'll do that in a second. So first I wanna roll a really thin coil. And I can just use my hands to do this. And it's good to be, for the clay to be really nice and soft too when you do this. If it's too dry, you're gonna have to push too much. All right, so it's just a really thin coil. So now I'm gonna take this and stand it up. Or I could do it this way. That'll work better. There's less stuff to fall. So I'm just gonna place this in that corner. and I'm going to push down. And I've got my hand on the outside where I'm pushing down. Just kind of smooth it out a little bit, and I'm going to trim it off. Use a little bit of water. I don't want to use too much water. I just want to move that, soften that clay up a little bit. Now, I don't want to keep that the way it is, right? That would help, right? Because the clay's on the top side, right, and on the base. So it's helping to hold that corner, that joint in place. But now I want to kind of work it into a 90-degree angle, because that's what my corner is. So this is a little rounded, but it will certainly work to do this. So I'm keeping my hand here, and I'm going to just take this and start moving some of that clay both into the wall and onto the base. It needs to be kind of wet. So now I've got like 3 layers of protection on that corner. Now, for the sake of speed, I'm not really going to do this on every corner for this box, right, or this pot, because, you know, you've seen it once. You can rewind, watch it again, but I want that to disappear. You know, take the time to make it look right. All right. So now I've got scoring, slipping, stitches on the outside, and a weld on the inside. All right, so now that corner is going to be much stronger than it was before, right? Than just scoring and slipping, right? It's going to hold up better as the clay shrinks and dries and all that stuff, right? So that part's important. You can kind of see that it's smoothed out, right? And now I want to start with another wall. So the choice is, I have 3 choices, right? 1, 2, and 3 is where do I put the next one, okay? So if I put it over here, I've got space and nothing holding each other, right? But if I put it on this side or this side, at least they'll start to help hold each other up. So work, you know, from the first one you put on, start working around, right? Don't skip over and do this side. Like work from here, and then here, and then here, and they all come together. All right, so let's get another slab. So for this one, I don't really have to cut anything yet except for the base. But I'm going to put this one right here on this side. And you know, I'll just put a couple little marks real quick where I'm going to cut. But if I already cut the base to exactly the same size as the pot's going to be, then I'm going to have to trim this down, right? Because it won't fit, okay? Now what's going to happen is I'll probably be able to do the next one, and I may have to cut a little bit off, but it should be about the same size as this. But the last one, I'm going to have to cut even more to make it fit in between the two. All right, so I've got 2 places now where I have to score and slip. Right here and vertical, right? So the horizontal and the vertical. So I'll go ahead and do this. Like I said, all I'm going to do really is score and slip, because so you can, you know, kind of see me put the whole thing together. But you should do all steps: score, slip, stitch, weld on all of it. Every corner you have. Notice where every place I'm working, I'm supporting the back side of my pot so I don't mess up my seam or my joint. So I'm going to slide that bottom piece in so it gets kind of snug, and then start to push a little more against the vertical corner. Now remember, you can do this like with any size pot. Like this is just, you know, the size that I'm doing right now. So if I've got it scored and slipped, the next thing would be stitches. I will do a few because I have to do both from the bottom and going vertical. Because now I have two joints that I have to work on. Okay. Take the card. Tilt this a little bit so you can see. So I'm going to put my hand on the inside. Just kind of working the bottom one first. Starts to get a little drier, just keep the tool wet. I really don't want to see those stitches. So what starts to happen when you do this, some clay starts coming over this corner, like it starts hanging out on the outside. So what I do to keep it a nice corner is just turn my card around the rib and work both sides until I get it nice and straight. Because I want that corner to stay straight. Sometimes you can put a little bit of clay in some of the low spots. Just like when you were making the slab, and just rake through it again. Alright, so that outside corner looks pretty good for now. I mean, there's always things I can do later. And now I would come in and do the weld on this seam right here, this corner, the tall, and then the one running across the bottom, right? Really not going to do that just because it'll take a while, but I will run my card through there. I'm going to stop calling it the card, right, and use it by the name that it's supposed to be, a rib. Because if you were here, that's what you would be using. But I like the card. The card works, but we're going to call it a rib. All right, so I've cleaned up the inside corner, and now it's time for another wall. Remember, weld the inside. Like roll the thin coil, put it on both the horizontal and vertical corner. If you don't, you'll regret it. All right, so this sponge is a little bit damp. I'm just gonna take it on that outside corner real quick. And then once on the inside. Just clean up some of my mess as I go along. So now I can really go in either direction. I'm probably gonna do this one, but I could do this one first and then do that one. It really doesn't matter. Because we're connected either way. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut a little bit off of this one, that's okay. I could put it here, right? On the outside of this, that would work. But then I like them to kind of alternate a little bit. So it's not, I don't know, maybe that's just me. But I am gonna draw where it's gonna go. Just gonna place it, try to straighten it out. Take my pen tool, a couple of marks. Now I know where to score, so I'm gonna score this. So right now it doesn't matter, like I'm cutting some of this off, so I'm just scoring on my line so I can work a little faster. Slip. Again, slide it into place, right? I want it to be pretty straight. Make my connection on the outside. I want to see a little bit of that slip coming through. And if your slabs are too soft, it's going to be hard to keep it really straight. Mine are just stiff enough, right, to make it pretty quick. That last one's going to be tricky. Cut this. Do my stitches. So I'm pulling from wherever this one butts up against. Like if this was butted that way, I would have to pull from this one into that. But since this is the butt side, right, that would be like the base. And the bottom's still the same. And I'm not digging in too far, right? I'm just, just getting some of that outside into place. Come back with the rib. Bottom. Kind of working both sides of this one right now. Is it? I'm trying to go like all the way up when I do this. I'm not going like right here, and because that just makes one spot. So try to pull all the way through. And I'm going to take my sponge again. Just sort of soften that corner a little bit on the outside. I still see more than what I really want to see, but I'm also working kind of fast, so. Kind of bows out a little bit right there, but it's okay. Now I'm going to clean up the inside. Remember, so now I have less space if I'm doing a weld, but you can still do it at this point. There's going to be a time where you really can't, so you've got to do the score slip and stitches really well. Like, pay attention to that, because you can't always put a weld in, but if you can, you should. If you can get in there and do a weld, do it. All right, again, I will clean up more later. So right now, just be careful how you move things around too. Right, this is what I have, right? So I've got 3 sides of my box. I know this is gonna be, I'm gonna have to cut some of this because it's hanging over that way.